My beloved child. There is a reason you found this message today. There is a reason these words appeared before your eyes at this exact moment. What you are about to hear is not ordinary. It is not random. It is connected to a conversation that has been unfolding quietly behind the scenes, a conversation involving people connected to your soulmate, people who never expected their words to carry so much meaning. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. A surprising discussion has recently taken place, and your name found its way into that discussion. Not because someone forced it there. Not because someone was looking for attention. Your name appeared naturally, almost effortlessly, as if it belonged in that conversation from the very beginning. What makes this moment so fascinating is that the people involved were not trying to create a story. They were simply sharing thoughts. They were speaking honestly. And as they spoke, something remarkable happened. The focus kept returning to you. Again and again. One person mentioned your kindness. Another spoke about your energy. Someone else pointed out something unique about your character that most people overlook. And suddenly, what started as a casual conversation became something much bigger. Do not skip. Because what happened next surprised everyone. You see, there are moments when people talk about others for a few seconds and then move on. But this was different. The conversation continued. Questions were asked. Observations were shared. Memories were recalled. The room became curious. Why? Because the more they talked about you, the more they realized there was something about you that could not easily be explained. Something genuine. Something memorable. Something that remained in people's minds long after they had left the room. One person reportedly said something that caused everyone else to pause. Not because it was dramatic. Not because it was shocking. But because it felt true. And sometimes truth has a way of silencing an entire room. The statement was simple. They said that people often underestimate you at first. But once they truly understand who you are, their opinion changes completely. Think about that for a moment. How many times have people misunderstood your journey? How many times have people looked at only a small chapter of your story and assumed they knew the whole book? Yet the people in this conversation seemed to recognize something deeper. They recognized growth. They recognized strength. They recognized qualities that cannot be measured by appearances. Stay till the end. Because this is only the beginning. As the discussion continued, another interesting observation emerged. Someone mentioned that your presence leaves an impression. Not the kind that fades after a few hours. Not the kind that disappears after a few days. The kind that lingers. The kind people remember unexpectedly. The kind that returns to their thoughts when they least expect it. And that is where the conversation became even more intriguing. Because several people agreed. Without hesitation. Without debate. Without needing convincing. They agreed that there is something unforgettable about you. Now listen carefully. This does not mean you are perfect. It does not mean you have never faced challenges. In fact, The very challenges you have overcome may be part of the reason people remember you. There is a quiet strength within you. A resilience. A determination. Even when life becomes complicated. Even when circumstances become uncertain. Even when nobody seems to notice. That strength remains. And apparently, others have noticed it more than you realize. Do not skip. Something huge is waiting for you. The discussion then shifted toward the future. This is where things became especially interesting. Because instead of talking about who you were, they began talking about who you are becoming. And there is a significant difference. Many people spend their lives being defined by their past. But according to this conversation, the attention was not focused on your past at all. It was focused on your potential. On possibilities. On opportunities. On the path unfolding ahead of you. One person reportedly said that your story feels unfinished. Not in a negative way. In a hopeful way. As though an important chapter is still waiting to be written. As though something meaningful is still approaching. As though the best pages may not even be visible yet. Imagine hearing that. Imagine knowing that people can sense that your journey is moving towards something greater. Because that is exactly what seemed to happen. The atmosphere changed. The discussion deepened. People became more thoughtful. And your name continued to remain at the center of it all. Why? Because there was a growing realization that you have qualities that cannot be ignored forever. Qualities that continue to shine even when nobody is trying to make them shine. That kind of authenticity is rare. That kind of presence is memorable. And that kind of impact often creates conversations that last much longer than expected. Stay till the end. Because the most important part has not been revealed yet. Toward the close of the discussion, a final observation emerged. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was simply honest. Someone suggested that the people who truly appreciate you may be far more numerous than you realize. Think about that. There are moments when people feel unseen. Moments when they wonder whether their efforts matter. Moments when they question whether anyone notices their journey. Yet this conversation suggested the opposite. It suggested that your influence travels farther than you think. Your actions matter more than you know. Your presence is noticed more than you realize. And your story continues to inspire curiosity among people connected to your soulmate's world. Do not skip. Because in the next part, you will hear what happened after this conversation ended, why certain words continued echoing long after everyone left, and the surprising realization that nobody saw coming. Stay close. Something huge is waiting for you. A remarkable detail is about to surface. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. What you heard in the previous part was only the beginning. The conversation inside your soulmate's family did not end when everyone thought it would. In fact, after the discussion seemed finished, something unexpected happened. People kept thinking about the same topic. They kept returning to the same name. Your name. And that is where everything became even more interesting. There are conversations that disappear the moment they end. But there are other conversations that stay alive long after the words have been spoken. This was one of those conversations. Hours later, someone brought the topic up again. Not because they were told to. Not because they had to. But because something about what was said continued to stay in their mind. Do not skip. Because this next part is important. One person reportedly said that there was something unusual about the way people reacted whenever your name came up. Normally, family discussions move quickly from one topic to another. Yet every time your name appeared in the conversation, people slowed down. They listened more carefully. They became more thoughtful. That alone says something powerful. Think about it. In a world where attention disappears quickly, you somehow became someone worth discussing in greater detail. And then another observation appeared. Someone mentioned that your soulmate seemed different whenever you were mentioned. Not dramatically different. Not obviously different. Just different enough for people to notice. A small change in energy. A different level of attention. A quiet focus. The kind of focus that cannot be forced. The kind that appears naturally. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The conversation then moved towards something nobody expected. Instead of discussing what people knew about you, they started discussing what they felt about you. And that changed everything. Facts can start conversations. But feelings create lasting impressions. One family member reportedly said that there was a sense of sincerity surrounding your name. Another said that there was a feeling of trust. Someone else described you as a person who seems genuine even from a distance. And suddenly the discussion was no longer about simple observations. It became about impact. The impact you have made without even realizing it. The impact people can sense even when they have never spent years around you. That is not something that happens every day. Do not skip. Because the biggest revelation is still ahead. As the discussion continued, one person shared a thought that caused everyone else to pause for a moment. They suggested that some people enter a person's life for a season. Others enter for a reason. But every now and then, someone enters a story and changes its direction completely. The room became quiet. Nobody rushed to speak. Nobody laughed. Nobody changed the subject. Instead, people reflected on those words. And according to what was shared, your name remained connected to that thought. Can you imagine that? A conversation that began casually slowly transformed into something much deeper. Something much more meaningful. Something that nobody originally expected. Stay till the end. Because this next part may surprise you. As people continued sharing their thoughts, another realization began to emerge. Many of them had formed opinions about you independently. Without influence. Without pressure. Without discussing it beforehand. Yet somehow their conclusions sounded remarkably similar. They described qualities such as loyalty. They described kindness. They described resilience. They described a person who keeps moving forward even when life becomes uncertain. And when multiple people arrive at similar conclusions on their own, those observations begin to carry greater weight. That is exactly what happened. The conversation became stronger. The curiosity became deeper. And your name became more memorable than ever. Do not skip. Something huge is waiting for you. Toward the end of this unexpected discussion, one final thought surfaced. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. Yet it became one of the most powerful moments of the entire conversation. Someone said that the most valuable qualities a person can have are often the qualities that cannot be seen immediately. Character, integrity, consistency, heart. And according to the discussion, those were the qualities people seemed to associate with you. The room reportedly became thoughtful once again. Because everyone understood something important. Those qualities cannot be purchased. They cannot be borrowed. They cannot be imitated forever. They come from experience. They come from growth. They come from the journey a person has lived. And that realization left a lasting impression. Now listen carefully. Because the story is not over. Not even close. What happened after this discussion created an even bigger mystery. Certain words continued echoing in people's minds. Certain questions remained unanswered. And someone made an observation that nobody expected to hear. An observation that may completely change the direction of this story. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because in the next part, the hidden realization that emerged after everyone thought the conversation was over will finally be revealed, and what was quietly understood may become the most unforgettable part of this entire journey. An unexpected realization began to unfold. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. What happened next was not part of anyone's plan. The discussion about you had already ended. People had moved on to other topics. The room had changed. The moment seemed finished. But then something unusual happened. Your name returned. Not because someone forced it back into the conversation. Not because someone was trying to make a point. It returned naturally. As though the conversation itself was not ready to let go of the subject. That is when a deeper realization started to emerge. A realization that nobody expected at the beginning. One person reportedly said something very simple. Yet those few words changed the atmosphere immediately. They said that some people leave an impression because of what they have. But others leave an impression because of who they are. The room became thoughtful. Because everyone understood the difference. Many things in life can attract attention temporarily. But character creates lasting respect. And according to the discussion, that was exactly what people seemed to notice about you. Do not skip. Because this story is becoming even more interesting. As everyone reflected on those words, another observation appeared. Someone mentioned that your name seemed to carry a feeling of familiarity. Not because everyone knew every detail about you. But because the qualities associated with you felt genuine. There was no need for exaggeration. No need for dramatic stories. No need for endless explanations. The impression was already there. And that impression continued growing stronger. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The conversation then shifted toward a question. A simple question. But one that nobody could answer immediately. The question was this. Why do certain people continue appearing in conversations even after those conversations are supposed to be over? Think about that for a moment. How many names are forgotten quickly? How many people are mentioned once and never discussed again? Yet somehow your name kept returning. Again. And again. And again. That is when someone shared a remarkable thought. They suggested that certain people create a lasting impact because they bring something rare into the lives of others. Authenticity. And authenticity is difficult to ignore. People recognize it. People remember it. People value it. Even when they cannot fully explain why. That realization caused another pause. A longer pause. The kind of pause that happens when people feel they have discovered something meaningful. Do not skip. Because what came next surprised everyone. Another family member reportedly shared an observation about your future. Not a prediction. Not a promise. Simply an observation. They said that your story feels like it is moving toward an important chapter. A chapter that has not fully arrived yet. A chapter filled with growth. A chapter filled with opportunity. A chapter filled with meaningful moments. And what made this statement so interesting was the reaction it received. People agreed. Almost immediately. Without debate. Without hesitation. Without needing further explanation. It was as if everyone sensed the same thing. That your journey is still unfolding. That your story is still expanding. That your most meaningful moments may still be ahead. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. As the discussion continued, a final layer of understanding began to emerge. People started reflecting on first impressions. And something fascinating became clear. Several individuals admitted that their earliest assumptions about you had changed over time. Not because they learned something negative. The exact opposite. The more they learned, the more positive their understanding became. The more they observed, the more respect they developed. The more they reflected, the more appreciation they felt. That is not something that happens often. Many people make first impressions. Few people improve them over time. Yet according to the discussion, that is exactly what happened in your case. And that realization became one of the strongest moments of the entire conversation. Do not skip. Because the biggest revelation is almost here. Toward the very end, one final thought surfaced. A thought so simple that it almost seemed insignificant at first. But the more people considered it, the more powerful it became. Someone said, "The most memorable people are often the ones who never try to prove how memorable they are." Silence followed. Not because nobody had anything to say, but because everyone understood the meaning. Real value does not need constant attention. Real character speaks for itself. Real influence grows quietly. And according to everything shared during this discussion, those qualities were connected to you. That is why the conversation lasted longer than expected. That is why people kept returning to the topic. That is why your name remained memorable. And that is why the story still feels unfinished. Do not skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because in the next part, the most surprising realization of all finally begins to emerge, and what someone quietly noticed after everyone else stopped talking may become the most unforgettable moment in this entire story.